What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Natal Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be kicking off our Pluto through houses series, and we'll be taking a look at Pluto in the first house. So, let's get into it. What's Pluto? Pluto to me is our soul itself. And within that soul, we have the psychology of it. So, to some extent, it represents our inner psyche. It also represents the desires that we have as a soul. And the placement of Pluto gives keys to our true core desires. It's also intensity, obsession, and personal power. Okay, so wherever Pluto is in our chart shows where we can gain personal power related to that area. What's the first house? The first house is the original house of Aries. It's our sense of self, our physical appearance, how we project ourselves into the environment. So, to some extent, it's our fundamental personality, the impressions that we give off when people first meet us. Okay? So, with that being said, I'll start with the physical part. I think it's pretty much, if you know anything about astrology, it's always been said that, people with Pluto in the first house have, these very magnetic eyes. And the thing about it is that overall, because this is the physical body, it is, our presence and personality, Pluto in the first gives a person very much so that, a magnetic essence to them. These are the people that, regardless of what they're wearing, regardless of how they look, you just pay attention to them. And that is because of this underlying etheric energy that is emitting from them. So, it's very interesting. Pluto in the first house has the ability to really attract other people. However, many people are often intimidated by those with this position. And a large portion of that is because the Pluto in the first house person is naturally intense. It is just in their nature. And that's the thing why I always tell people, study the first house. For even if you don't have planets there, look for people who have planets there, because you can learn a lot. Personally, I have a moon in the first house, and in my experience, the moon is the nurturer. It's inviting, and I very much so get that reaction from people. People just want to talk to me for some particular reason. But Pluto here, people are afraid to talk to you. It isn't unless they are Plutonian within themselves, so maybe like a sun in Scorpio, a moon in Scorpio, something like that, where they feel comfortable, interacting with a Pluto in the first house. So on a deeper level, what you really want to know here is that in terms of your evolution, this is an incarnation where you are setting out to establish your sense of self through the projecting of your own or understanding of your own personal power. So whatever sign rules your first house, you want to really seek to display or cultivate these qualities, because when you do, they empower you. Now, one thing I'm big on personally is, because there's layers to this, I would say, with Pluto, you always want to look to, especially in the first house, look towards where the sun is placed within your chart. So you want to combine the elements of your particular rising sign with that of your sun sign. And that is really a way you can get the most out of your personal power. Okay? So if you are a Scorpio, Scorpio ascendant, Pluto in Scorpio, or even in Libra, by you naturally cultivating those Scorpio skills, and let's say you're a sun in Gemini, you really should be an expert about, 8th house things. Your sun would be in the 8th house. You know what I mean? You should be an expert and be able to teach others, as well as be interested in learning about the things of your rising sign. Okay? So somebody with that particular position I'm describing could be a great, psychologist, sexual psychologist, marriage counselor, because they're combining, the understanding of, eighth house things and being able to learn about them and then teach them, which is the Gemini part. So, like I said, you get the most out of your personal power with this position when you combine it with the elements of your sun. Okay? But like I said, the major point of evolution for people with Pluto in the first house is learning how to not repel others from them. These are often people who, they're not really interested in small talk. These aren't people who date for superficial reasons. They literally need to feel like they have a bond with you. So, like I said, the first house is like how you project yourself into the environment. So within everything that they're doing, they're looking for depth. Okay? So that in turn, I always say the first house is kind of, it's like small talk. It's like, showing things at face value. But Pluto in the first house has a hard time, doing that. So they evolve when they learn, I would say, how to dial down their intensity a bit. When it's like, and this kind of goes in the sense of like not expecting so much from life. Okay? So, along with this, Pluto in the first house, they tend to be naturally suspicious of others. Okay? And a large portion of this suspicion is due to the fact that, a lot of times with this particular position, the upbringing was tough. Okay? What you'll find here is two distinct scenarios where the person is either born to parents who, one, encourage the development of the person with the person's individuality and personal power, or they get a parent who kind of tries to oppress them, okay, who are maybe overbearing. So you definitely always want to pay attention to the aspects connected towards Pluto, whether or not it's aspected well or difficultly. If it's aspecting other malefics such as Saturn or Mars, it's going to indicate some type of hardship, some type of trauma, because what that does is it sets up a scenario in which the person can gain the type of ammunition they need to evolve. All right, so it's kind of like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All right, so there's always going to be a bit of trauma, or or just a natural feeling of loneliness. Okay, but if you have Pluto in the first house, you definitely, like I said, are here to develop your sense of self, to showcase your individuality. There is something special about who you are, but it's up to you to discover it. And the things that happen to you within your life, give an example, whether it be your one of your parents being a drug addict, you being, sexually abused, that is supposed to go into your story and, affect the way that you project yourself out there. All right? But overall, it's a great position to have at its highest, plateau. If you can do that, I would think of like they're married too. I would think of like, this Pluto in the first house makes me think of a Jay-Z or a Beyonce. Someone you're just in awe of. And I say Jay too because he's, one thing I always hear about him is that his social skills are off the charts. So, like I said, at the highest potential, you harness your personal power through understanding your intensity and knowing how to keep it in check so you don't repel others, but in turn, you actually are able to attract people towards you, which helps you reach your further desires. Alright? So, this is my interpretation of Pluto in the first house. If you have this position, feel free to chime in. Let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to do so. If you need a reading, hit me up. Until next time, peace.